Wen People Talk, Community Podcast. Wen People Talk, Community Podcast, yeah.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Wen People Talk. I'm Bills, and I'm joined here with Dana Alibrandi from StormX. How's it going?
Yeah, it's good. Happy to be here. For context, I'm a lead product manager, so work really closely with Alex and Matt and Simon and Calvin and everyone else just to, make the StormX app as good as it possibly can be.
Oh yeah, y'all are back there, the mad scientists in the lab, actually putting your hands on all the stuff, all the products back there.
Yep, doing a lot of testing. We've been growing the team a lot, and really just trying to build process and do all of that kind of messy work that comes with, a growing, relatively early stage company.
Oh yeah, so I remember I talked to Matt a while back about just kind of like how quickly y'all were going to start like upscaling things as far as like infrastructure, employees, like that kind of stuff. Sounded like a huge headache that I didn't want to know part of, but that's all you guys. That's what y'all live for. So
it is a lot, and fortunately, we've all been in those environments before, so we're aware of how like chaotic and messy it can be. But there is something super exciting about doing it, about being a part of that like building creative process, and specifically being a part of that process in the crypto industry. All brand new, cutting edge, never been done before. Love it.
Yeah, y'all are. I talked about this with Alex a little bit when we did Alex's episode, but like, y'all are just completely getting to like pave your own path. It's like there's so many avenues that y'all could take of like, well, nobody's done this before. Not even like just reinventing the wheel, but like let's completely add a new instrument and go a place nobody has before. That's the kind of stuff that still gets me so excited about where crypto is right now. But I wanted to ask you how did you get started with StormX? Like, cause I'm trying to remember like when you got on with StormX. I'm trying to think of the year. I feel like a dinosaur now. I've been around too long now.
It was so long ago. 2000, 2001. No, it was actually
wow.
no. It was last year. It was actually this month. It's going to be my 1 year anniversary. And I don't know, like a week maybe.
Happy StormX anniversary, sir.
Thank you. But yeah, I got connected to it. I was working at Dash Core Group at the time, and for anyone unfamiliar, that's the main organization that is building and promoting the Dash cryptocurrency, and the organization is funded by the Dash DAO. So I was doing that. We were building an L2 on top of Dash, a decentralized database as a service, and I was looking for my next move. I wanted to be something that was a little more user facing as opposed to developer facing. And a recruiter actually reached out to me about opportunity at StormX. And that kicked off a long interview process where I met with Alex frequently. I met with Simon, Calvin, Matt, and eventually culminated in an offer, I think while I was in Tulum. I think I was working remotely at the time. So,
Nice. Yeah, I'm trying to I just, as small as StormX has always kind of been, as far as like I don't know, maybe small is not the term, but like very, very tight knit. You know what I mean? Like everybody was, especially when y'all would go on like the hackathon trips where they would just rent out a house or something in Mexico, or I think they did one in South Korea one time. Like they were such a small, tight knit, and then like I guarantee, in order for you to I can just imagine like all the different interview processes you were having to go through. Made you feel like you're getting on a reality show, man.
It was cool though, because I had a similar environment when I was working at Dash. Coworkers were distributed. We did numerous meetups, mostly international. We met in Budapest one time. So shortly after I joined at StormX, they were all working in a house together in Cancun, and definitely couldn't pass that up. I mean, I love Mexico. So I go down there, meet everybody, and then in the very first day, I get COVID. And no one else gets COVID. Yeah, like I'm in the house with them, and I'm like trying to keep my distance. No one else has it. And then I end up having to stay in Mexico for an extra 10 days before I could test negative.
You were the new guy that
Yeah.
That's horrible, man.
Hey, it helped bond me. They're like, oh, Dana's coming in here. He's sacrificing already. He's getting COVID for us.
Look at this guy. He put it all on the line. He came out here. He got sick. He worked through it. Like, oh, yeah. Not only that, you're
asymptomatic, but yeah.
No, you're supposed to milk it like Simon, look at me. Like, I'm dying here. I'm continuing to work, while in the background, you're like, all right, this isn't that bad. But
in the moment, I did. We also played and bonded over Super Smash Bros. And anytime I lost, I would blame it on the COVID.
Yeah,
Which
absolutely.
Was rare. It was rare.
Okay, yeah, no, yeah. I'm sure everybody down in Mexico had a different Smash Brothers record than they remember, but that's how it usually works.
That sounds about right. Simon is legit good though. Like, and everyone, pumps themselves up in different ways, and some people are like very modest, but he comes into it very modest. Like, I'm okay, but he's really good.
That's always the personality type. Like, I've gotten off of Simon, like, oh, I'm just gonna be like quiet and coy about it, but secretly I could like destroy all of you in StarCraft, or I could just destroy everybody here at this poker table while like not saying anything and just being zoned in at the same time.
It's a good move. You catch people off guard. I definitely had to work a lot harder in Smash than I feel like I normally do.
You're sitting there sweating. You're like, it's the COVID. No, it's just the COVID. I'm not stressed.
Yeah, I was like, oh, this isn't my main character. I need to switch.
Oh man, that sounds like something that would go down. Just a bunch of hackers in a little hacker house down in Mexico. That's Smash Brothers seems like the extreme danger level of what y'all are doing down there, hanging out.
Yeah. I mean, I got there a little bit late, so I know everyone else was, doing other sorts of team building activities. And while the team was down there, they launched the Shrug NFT token. So there was actual work done.
No, yeah. Some like, right? Like, oh man, the Shrug NFT. I love those things. Just the whole way that was implemented, and the D app that y'all built around that, and then I can't remember the terminology for the like the curve, like the price
Bonding
curve, bonding curve to it. Yeah, I love those things.
Yeah, it's really interesting, and there's like a whole bunch of like emerging mechanisms on how to do that fairly, so that people are, not necessarily overpaying, or at least everyone has access to be able to get an NFT in a collection. I don't know. We're exploring some like cool things with that now. Hopefully, it's not something I can get censored to say, but I'm gonna say it anyways. One of the applications we're looking at is NFT memberships.
Nice.
So instead of holding, individual STMX, you could buy an NFT that represents your membership, and then that NFT can be sold if you decided you didn't want a membership anymore. You can upgrade it. There's a lot we need to figure out, and the debit card is by far like still the biggest heads down priority that we're focusing on. But soon.
Yeah, y'all gotta. I guarantee just the minds, the minds that I've been able to pick over at StormX. Like, I can imagine, like, once debit cards here, it's like y'all could just split off into like all these different products that y'all want to start putting out. But
we definitely don't have any shortage of ideas, and I don't know. I guess if I were to like categorize what's going on internally at StormX, at least in the product and engineering department, is we're just figuring out how to work as best as we possibly can work together, and getting a bunch of people, building a culture, figuring out what sort of development processes work. I don't know, there's a lot of trial and error involved in there, but we're definitely getting closer.
I like that y'all are leaning into. For some reason recently, like, I just like dove headfirst into like the generative side of like NFT collections and generative art collections and stuff like that. Like, I've even been tinkering with putting out some of my own, but just there's so many cool possibilities. There's so, like, the further you go down the rabbit hole of crypto, you just pull out like all these cool like IRL applications that you could bridge this over to here, like you're talking about, like an NFT for a StormX membership, or like like a one-time monetary deal to where you purchase this NFT, this translates to your membership level. I love stuff like that.
Yeah. I don't know, there's a couple of use cases that I think are really interesting, and one that does not interest me at all, and maybe I'll be shamed in the wider crypto community for this, is art speculation.
Yeah.
I mean, I get it, it's exciting, and there is some really cool art being, created and minted on NFTs. But something that I think would be super interesting is like your driver's license as an NFT, or voter registration, or different sort of like civic applications for that technology. I think would be really cool.
Me and a coworker actually today. I probably shouldn't. I talk too much, and I just feel like sometimes I throw out cool ideas that are probably already thought of a million times, but in my head I'm like, oh, this is the one. You know what I mean? But we were talking about like, in its simplified form, almost like you have like theme parks, right? Theme parks have their yearly passes. Why, you could essentially build like you could almost build like your own generator essentially, to where when you go in, you put your name, you don't have to put your picture or anything, because, who wants to mint their photo onto anything like that? But you could essentially have it built into where, the 2023 wherever Disneyland membership, with your name on the bottom, you put it in, you mint it for the price of a yearly membership. And then when you go, you can just scan straight out of your crypto wallet. Like stuff like that has much more use than like funny flower picture or something like that. Like that's the kind of stuff that gets me super excited.
I agree. I think that I think we probably need, like, as an industry, to kind of nail down decentralized identifiers and decentralized ID. So like, how can I have, all of my identity information stored on like some sort of decentralized ledger, and yet it is still private, but I can use that information to verify certain things. This is also kind of where like zero knowledge proofs come into play. And I don't know, that's a whole other rabbit hole that I'm probably not equipped to go into detail on, but it is super fascinating.
I feel like none of this I'm equipped to talk about. I just talk, and then somebody's like, "That's not right," and I'm like, "Oh, okay," and then I just learn and I go from there. That's how I learned some of this stuff.
Well, something that I've noticed, among some of my coworkers, and not necessarily at StormX, but just in general, within product management, is imposter syndrome. A lot of product managers suffer from this, but I think a lot of people in crypto also suffer from it. All of the influencers don't. The influencers are out there saying, I get all of this makes perfect sense to me. But people that are actually, heads down building, I mean, the information changes so rapidly, new technologies are emerging, and you just kind of always feel like you're in catch-up mode. Someone always knows more than you. So
Oh yeah, I feel that all the time. Like, you kind of have to lose that like almost like FOMO factor in crypto, because like you're like, man, like how did I not see that? It's like, look, a million other people saw that ahead of time because they knew the people that saw that before everybody. You know what I mean? Like, you just have to get over that. Like, you're gonna find cool stuff when you find it. There's no, unless you're in the right room, in the right channel, that's the only way you could have known about it type stuff. Like all this stuff, it's just moving. It's moving so fast. You know what I mean?
I totally agree. It kind of makes me think that, a lot of people that, got, for lack of a better word, lucky when, some major protocol blew up. I mean, that's awesome for them. And it just feels like right place, right time sort of thing. But I mean, if you're like really active and interested in all this stuff, you'll find your way to those communities.
Oh yeah. Like I've noticed, like, as you become like, crypto is really good about like finding friends, and in the weirdest way. Like, we touched on this in another podcast episode. I gotta stop saying that in another episode. Like I'm just some amazing host, right?
I was just like, man, cool. That's my first thought.
That exactly right. As long as you're thinking it, we're cool. But no, it's just cool because like, technology is at a point where you can essentially have friends all the way across the world, you know what I mean? And like, you, especially the more you get into crypto, you start getting into crypto communities and you start being friends. Like the other guys that I do the ambassador stuff with StormX for, like they're my homies, you know what I mean? Like Ceviche invited me to him and his wife's anniversary. I can't go, right? We got stuff going on that weekend, but still, it's like you form like these communities because you're just looking at all these different projects, and then you find a friend over here, and then you meet this cool guy over here. Like that's not to throw around a classic Web3 term of like alpha, but like that's where you learn the cool stuff. Is like you just start seeing what they're interested in, like what projects they're looking into and what they like. Like that's been the funnest
I
part
totally
for me.
agree. Yeah, like I don't know. I think one of the things that really hit me is, when I got into crypto to start, is it just felt like a fit for
Yeah.
me, like personality wise. And a lot of the people that I worked with are, world travelers doing the whole digital nomad thing. All of that still is very important to me. So now that, I've moved companies a little bit, and so have some of my other ex coworkers, that network remains because, we're all part of this thing, this movement that I don't know, it's pioneering.
Yeah,
So
no, it's a
yeah,
perfect,
I don't know.
perfect term for it, man. Like I said earlier, like any path you go down, like right or wrong, like it more than likely, like not a lot of people are doing it. Like what's the percentage of the global population in crypto right now? Like super small, super
It is.
small.
It's definitely ridiculous how small it is. I mean, we're still at the very beginning, and I mean that's like a really, I think, popular phrase that gets thrown out on crypto Twitter all the
That's those
time.
Web3 marketing terms. That's just what this whole podcast is going to be. Web3 marketing terms.
And I mean, there is some like legitimate truth to that, but I don't know. I sometimes worry that the industry as a whole is too caught up in speculation
Yeah.
versus, where are the real use cases? And, I think we all want to get rich. I mean, that would be nice. But at the same time, this technology is revolutionary. And how are we going to really use it to improve people's lives?
Yeah, that's we talk about that. We talk about that all the time. Like when utility finally gets when utility becomes what speculation is now of like people actually every day using products like StormX, perfect example of something that could change and help your everyday life and everyday purchases. You when you start seeing people like it kind of click in their head. Like I remember when I showed my buddy StormX, and he was like, oh, I could run all the purchases for my restaurant through this. And then like now, like Sam's Club, like anything that he can get anything him and his wife can run their restaurant through, they run it through. And they've made a really good amount in cashback just by supplementing that one aspect of their life through StormX. And then, then it comes to like, oh, the kids need school supplies. All right, first place they go is StormX. Oh, we need to make this purchase around the house. They look to StormX first. It's like once you start getting masses to start finding these, because like speculation's cool, right? Like you said, we all want to make money, but like when you find these things that can actually make your life easier, there's a monetary value to that too. Just people don't see it, right? It's time versus money, right? Like that's once that starts coming around and utility starts being the thing that takes off, I think it's going to be a pretty cool world.
The word that like comes to mind as you were describing that kind of dynamic, where you want to get rich, but you're also like finding something that has that utility. I think the word that comes to mind for me is value. Yeah. And as product manager, that is like the core word that I'm always just kind of thinking about, like, how are we delivering value? How is this app valuable to our users, and how can we make it more so? And I don't know, that was always what kind of like really pushed me in the very beginning when I joined at StormX, was I saw this as an on-ramp for people to get involved in crypto. I mean, it's easy. Like, shop at your favorite stores, earn cash back. You're not taking that much of a huge risk. You don't need to do anything complicated like get an account on an exchange. Yeah. I thought that path of least resistance was really powerful, and I still do. So hopefully the debit card will make it even more so.
Yeah, I mean, I'm obviously like as soon as like I get excited, even like debit card gets brought up, and I'm like, oh, the hair stand up on the back of my neck. But like the debit card is gonna be, whoo! I can only imagine how y'all feel on the other side. But like just me on this side of like wanting it in my hands to actually use for the first time. But like once y'all, I mean, it's going to be stupid how much simpler it makes onboarding for the average person. Right? Like StormX is really cool. StormX is an amazing tool already to bring people in. It shows people like, look, just use our app. You don't have to set up a crypto wallet until it comes time that you've accumulated. It gives you steps and lessons and ways to learn how to withdraw, to set up a wallet, to withdraw all this. Like, there's a built-in learning aspect for crypto in general in the current infrastructure. But like, once a debit card comes out, I mean, like, you're tying IRL to crypto to shopping, like, and all once. Oh man, I get excited. I'm explaining the debit card to you, the guy designing the debit card, but just to let you know what a fan on the other side feels when we talk about it.
Well, a couple of maybe interesting updates in that regard, and a historical milestone that I want everyone to know about is I've been using the card. It's on my Apple Pay, so
Nice.
I've been using it contactless at different merchants, and the very first purchase that I think anybody made was a bottle of kombucha. So yeah, write that down in the history books. I think the second purchase was a pack of Starburst.
Why is that so awesome? I don't know. It's so perfect. Just Starburst and kombucha. I love kombucha, so that's just that. Yeah, I'm gonna remember that forever. I'm gonna start a StormX history book so we can remember all these first time purchases and.
Yeah, something about the idea that a bottle of kombucha is like the first purchase ever made. I don't know. It kind of makes me happy. I can't really explain why, but it just seems like such a random thing. But that is the power of the card. You can use it for anything, and you're going to get some percentage cash back on that. Yeah. Power.
Oh man.
Financial.
We're gonna talk ourselves right into some red tape here, but I love it. I don't even care.
Yeah. I mean, that's fine. We'll let Matt and
we'll let the
censor all that.
We'll let the overlords tell us, what makes it to the civilian population out there.
All of that is. I mean, we've been actually talking about sharing that. And I think that is an area that we can improve upon as an organization, which is just finding a way to be more timely with our development and updates. So a lot of stuff is happening behind the scenes, but we're not always communicating it outward. And I don't know, it's just a challenging dynamic. Like, I also think that this is an area that governance will hopefully help resolve too.
Oh yeah. Especially like once you start getting community involved in like Alex has talked about, like community led projects and stuff like that. Once we kind of get the wheels up and rolling on how governance is fully gonna, I guess, evolve into its final evolving form. Oh yeah, it's going to be much better, because then you can have community updating community on projects that community's working on. As cliche as that sounds, but yeah, there's some really cool stuff.
That is cool. And I don't know, it reminds me a lot of my time at Dash, because every DAO cycle, it was called a super block. And that's where like all the members of the DAO would vote on different proposals. We actually had to argue to get paid every time there was a super block. So we'd be like, hey, Treasury, these are all the things that we've been doing as an organization. Please continue funding us so that we can pay our employees and continue developing the Dash blockchain. And I mean, I can definitely see like a similar type of dynamic happening with StormX. I mean, we don't have like a L1 protocol or anything like that, but I don't know. Who knows what'll happen?
Oh yeah, like once you start getting to, because Alex is really excited about having like a constantly evolving, what's the term he uses, like token list of like tokens that you can withdraw in, right? And having that be in the community's hands to vote on and be almost ever changing in a sense of like, okay, this 3-month block, StormX community wants to be able to withdraw in Doge. Okay, this 3-month, they want to take it out in Voyager, or whatever the hot coin is at the time. But I mean, that's cool, because like once you're comfortable with having that level, I guess not necessarily treasury, but that level of control over like what's coming in and out and what's being provided, then like you said, you could take that a step further of like almost like budgets, in a sense of like budgets for this, like let's vote on how much time and effort we want to put into this, or how much time and effort we want to put into this. All right, this is our, like the way Alex put it is like the community resource wallet or pool that you know the rest of the Athens is going to be in our, you know, he describes it much more eloquently and genius like, but just like once you give community control over stuff like that, there's really no ends as to like it's all going to be like what StormX is comfortable with and what the community is like able to adapt to control. Like if we just butcher it, then maybe we'll take a step back. But
well, I think it redefines the traditional like business customer relationship. You know, now with like DAOs and governance, you know, the users or customers of a business and the business itself are collaborating much more closely in what should be built, what services should be provided, how it should be marketed. And I don't know, I feel like optimistic about that. I feel like that's a step in the right direction toward I don't know, a larger economy of, you know, real value. Yeah, I don't know.
No, that's I trust me, that's the kind of stuff I ramble to myself constantly of like, you have this completely new industry that's, like I said, like each path you take, not too many people have already done that path, right? Like, and like there's so many cool things you can expand upon of like now you're getting into like me and Alex went on a whole tangent about just how exciting DAOs are in general of like you have this community controlling this company, you know, if you want to put like a classic term of like this company on it, but like it's just a pool of thousands of people all contributing to this one unified goal. Like there's so many possibilities. You can definitely go down the rabbit hole endlessly.
Yeah, I've been really interested in these two DAOs that are kind of related, not really, sort of. One of which is called Kernel DAO, and they do this it's kind of like an educational DAO where you put together this cohort of people, and I think it's like an 8-week program, and then you're just having conversations and you're meeting with these people and you're just discussing like really big important ideas. And a lot of, you know, Web3 companies and Web3 projects kind of get incubated in this. They're like, oh, you know, we have this problem with carbon markets and companies need to you know, purchase carbon offsets, but they're not transparent. What should we do? Well, let's put it on a blockchain. So cool ideas like that are coming out of it. And this other DAO that I really like is called the Climate DAO. And they're doing what I was just mentioning. They are allowing people to purchase digitized carbon and you know, trade that on the open market and basically provide funding to environmental projects that are, you know, offsetting pollution.
No, that's actually, wow. I might have you send me a DM after this so I can look into some of these you're talking about, because I love looking into stuff like that. It's so cool.
Yeah, there's this whole like emerging kind of niche, sub niche within, you know, Web3 called refi, regenerative finance. So it's all about how we can create these kind of environmental markets, for lack of a better word, using, you know, blockchain technology, and, you know, fund these projects using carbon offsets and things like that.
Man, like when you get enough big brains in the same room all collectively working through the same goal, like there's so much cool stuff that not only is out there right now, but just like your mind starts racing like what the normal meta is now. Like what's it going to be 10 years from now, right? Like all of this is happening after 10 years of, you know, like let's say like, you know, crypto's been around for much longer than, you know, Bitcoin, but like 10 years of that, what's 10 years in the future going to look like? You know what I mean? Or is all this going to be down the wayside? Who knows? That's a pessimistic view, but like what's
well, it's kind of crazy to think about. Yeah.
Like just we move so fast, right? Like what is it going to be like in 10 years?
I definitely think crypto will remain in some capacity. It's hard to say because so many networks emerge, and I think it's interesting to kind of look at everything that's out there now and say we're in this phase where a lot of these are eventually going to die off. And then you have some people like the Bitcoin maxis, or really any network maxis, that are like, there's only going to be one left and it's going to be ours. And I think that is the silliest position when it comes to all this. Like, when in the history of, I don't know, economics or the world has, you know, some sort of technology like this come out and we've only decided on like one course, especially when, you know, Bitcoin compared to Ethereum and other sort of like Ethereum type of networks, there's so many differences in how they operate.
It's like that Highlander point of view, right? Isn't that the Highlander, right? There can only be one. Like, that's, you get, oh man, you get into some of these conversations and you're just like, oh, okay. Like he's got the Highlander personality.
There are so many networks out there that are doing interesting things, and I think they deserve to keep kind of experimenting and, you know, capturing market and, you know, in some cases pushing Ethereum to be better.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know. I'm optimistic. I definitely see like a multi-chain future. And there's a lot of companies out there and projects that are working to make that happen. Chainlink is a big one that's doing that. So,
yeah, it's all going to come down like I get excited at the companies that aren't afraid to be like, okay, like let's take a little bit of what's working over here, let's take a little bit of working over here, and not necessarily like you call it theft in a sense, but like not necessarily, like more of inspiration of like, oh, okay, they're proof of this, they're proof of that, like this is working, let's figure out a way to blend the two and put that out there. And then I get really excited, and I get to the point where I'm just giddy and my brain is just exploding on what's going to be coming out in the next couple years.
They say great artists steal. So, you know, all these.
I just heard that quote. Sorry.
All these projects. I mean, many of them are open source. So this is one of the big advantages of open source. You know, I can look at my competitor or even just a different project's code base and be like, the way they solve that problem is really interesting. I'm totally going to just steal that and do that in my own.
Yeah, it's like you said, it's all open source. It's all forever on the blockchain, right? Just look at their code, and their code's out there, and it's open source for the world most of the time. Like, and then most of the time, like, what is it they say? Like, other developers want you to look at their code and be like, "Oh, that's good code." Like, it's all out there. It's all out there for each other, anyways, right?
I mean, I'm definitely not an engineer by any means, but whenever I do, you know, dabble in a little bit of code and I solve something, it is so satisfying. And if someone like that was an engineer were to come and be like, that was pretty good, and, you know, that was a pretty elegant solution, I'd be like, oh, thank you so much.
Little pat on the back. Thank you so much. View my GitHub. It's all there.
Yeah, right. Look at my heat map. Yeah, I've actually made that joke very frequently. Gotta get those green boxes on the GitHub and heat map active, so developers kind of know what I'm doing. Sort of.
Oh, that's Dana. That's Dana's code. Oh shit, that's Dana's code, right? Like that's what you're living for. Like,
one day, that's my goal.
Oh man, yeah. That I just actually heard that quote for the first time, and it was this image, and it said, "Good artists create, great artists steal," and it was over like a Picasso, and then it had Picasso scratched out, and it said Banksy on the bottom. It's like, oh, okay, I get it.
I feel like, I can't remember exactly, but I feel like Picasso was the first person who made that quote. I think he was the one who said that.
That's
or maybe
probably,
he stole it from someone else.
That's probably the joke there, right? Like Picasso stole it from somebody, and then Banksy was like, no, this is Banksy's now.
That is fun. I've come across that a good amount of times. I like to, like, one of my I guess hobbies outside of Web3 crypto stuff is reading fiction, classic fiction. So come across that quote a fair amount of times.
It's a good quote. It's a good quote because like once you start really looking into some of these like super amazing projects, you start like oh, some of that's from here, some of that's from there, some of that's, you know, I guess that's constantly how humans evolve over time. It's like, oh, you learn this, and then this guy, you know, showed you he created a great wheel, and then this guy used that wheel and put it on a frame, and then that they turned that frame into a car. It's like we're all constantly stealing over time, but
I totally agree. I think that's the point of it as well. I mean, all these artists, and same thing happens, same dynamic is happening with like open source projects in the tech world. We're creating something, we're solving a problem, or maybe we're just doing something that's kind of cool. We're putting it out there, letting people interact with it, and then they take it in a different direction. And, you know, maybe I steal what they stole from me. Yeah.
Little back and forth while you're both putting out really cool products to try and one up the other person.
This is my theory of the recent Tomb Raider trilogy and then the Uncharted trilogy. You know, Tomb Raider influenced Uncharted, and then Uncharted did some cool stuff that influenced the new Tomb Raider trilogy that came out. So yeah, very weird circular relationship going on there.
Yeah, it's competition breeds better competition, right? Like when you're the best at the guy that, what is it? Somebody said the other day, like nobody could break a 4-minute mile, and then somebody broke the 4-minute mile. Now everybody can do a 4-minute mile, right? Like once somebody does something really cool, and everybody's mind's like okay, now we can do that. Let's do that now.
That's so interesting because I'm taking an exercise physiology course right now through my local community college just for fun. And we were talking about that exact scenario where, you know, athletes reach some sort of crazy milestone. And we were talking about a 4-minute mile specifically, and like just how that happens and psychologically what's going on. And the TED Talk that we had to watch for course was kind of like, yeah, people aren't really getting inherently, you know, faster. Our technology is just improving a lot. You know, better tracks, better shoes, yeah, stuff like that. Still interesting.
And people are also breaking down like those mental barriers, right? Like
that is a huge part.
Yeah, it's like so. It's a little anecdote. Like I don't know if you're familiar with like David Goggins, right? So familiar. Essentially, like old Navy SEAL, ultra marathon runner. They call him like the hardest man on earth. Yeah, like just the dude is insane, right? Like every single day he's running like 20 miles a day. The dude's just insane. Well, I was listening to a podcast with him talking about like how his body and mind are almost completely shut off. It's just in his head. He's screaming at himself like, you're the best, you know what I mean? And he can knock out another 10 miles with bloody feet and stuff. And I listened to that podcast on the way home, and I'd been running and working out, and the most I've ever been able to run straight, just as my body type, like I've just never been able to break like a mile and a half straight. Like just, you know, for me, that was like a big milestone, especially like when I started getting into better shape. I listened to that podcast that day. I ran 3 miles straight, right? Like just hearing this guy talk about like, you know, essentially like his inner child or his inner baby inside that he had to like put in place and be like, no, you can run further. I listened to that podcast. I ran 3 miles that day, and I was like, oh, I can go further. Like, oh, okay. That's all in my head.
Yeah. It's running. I've been doing I have a friend from high school. He used to be a college athlete, and he has a family now. And, you know, he's gotten a little bit out of the whole, like, you know, rigorous college athlete program. And he and I were doing a 5K training program, and it just reminded me so much how I hate running. It really is all mental, but I hate it so much. Boring.
The only time like at one time I shot up to like 250 pounds, and then I dropped all the way back down to like 175 because like I got to the point where like I knew I needed to get healthier, so I'd convinced myself I loved all of it. And I hated it. I hated the working out. I hated the running. But like in my head, I was like, you love it. Like, you've got this. Like, it's your favorite thing. Part of the day. Like, you got this. Like, you're a warrior. But at the back, I'd get home and I'd be like, I hated every second of that. Like, no, but I don't think anybody
feel better afterwards. Like after the run is over, I'm like, I'm glad I did that. You know, I feel better, you know, breathing more easily. But during the run, I'm like, oh, is this going to end? Like, is this just my life just running on this road forever?
I feel like I'm opposite to that, right? Like, so when I'm in the middle of the run, I'm like, you got this. Like, just like I can convince myself just to deal with the pain. But as soon as it's over, I'm like, I hated it. I don't want to do it again tomorrow. I go to the next day and I can do it again. But like immediately after, I'm like, I hated every second of this. Why would somebody do this?
I've been changing it up. I'm trying to leave running behind and find like other ways of getting cardio and being healthy. And the one thing that I'm liking a lot right now are battle ropes in the gym where you can take that.
Man,
I love them. Those are great. It's a great workout.
Those I have terrible memories with those things. We used to end our workouts with those. If you're enjoying that, I'd say lean into it because they're an amazing workout, and I hated every second of them.
Yeah, it's really intense. I feel like it'd be really good for like a HIIT workout. Something high intensity, and I don't know. I just like that idea of getting like my heart rate up really high and feeling like I accomplished something. And they work multiple muscle groups too, which I think is really nice. Just keeping things efficient.
Yeah, I definitely want to get back into like you were saying, like the HIIT style workouts of like just being able to get that heart rate super jacked up while doing stuff and hating my life through it, but it's over in like 30 minutes to an hour instead of like having a jog for 3 hours to get the same level of cardio. I like that.
Well, in that regard, let me promote a product uncharacteristically. Most products I'm like, but as someone who has made their career about developing products, whenever I find one that I really like, I mean, I usually get really into it. But in that regard, I have this Whoop band.
Oh, nice.
I love, and it's allowed me to like customize my workouts based on how well I've recovered day to day, and I can increase the intensity knowing what my vital metrics are looking like. Alex has one too. He and I chat about it pretty frequently.
I'll have to look in because you're not the first person that's recommended that to me. And they had a similar story of like there's no guessing to like what their body can handle or like what the right workout is, because you can go in and you're like, all right, I know what my heart rate was during this, and I know what my oxygen levels or all the different thing it tracks. Like, all right, now I can fine tune it and figure out what's actually working good. I might have to look into that now. Man, I gotta get back in shape.
It's like the app itself is very advanced, and they also write all these really cool blog posts. They're really good at content marketing in general, and they analyze data from all of their users, and they just write these reports on relationships between certain activities and exercise. Like it might be marijuana use and sleep quality, or heart rate variability and ability to exercise really hard the next day, stuff like that. Super useful.
Yeah, I was just like, as you were saying that, I was thinking about like the data collection side of like they have these users, they're all tracking like what everybody's body's doing during certain workouts and certain sleep patterns and commonalities between people. Yeah, I guarantee they got some really informative blog posts just based off of data collection alone.
Yeah, and I guess to bring this back full circle to blockchain and Web3, just because I have to. I got to.
Yeah. That's what we're here. Like, right here. Yeah.
I think a lot of people, at least a lot of people that I've interacted with in different crypto communities, would get probably pretty nervous about a company having that much of your health data and it just being in this centralized database. And maybe there's a way in the future where we would own our data, and our data could be protected behind some sort of zero knowledge proof, and I could give Whoop permission to access it, and it would be anonymized, and then they could still write all those really cool reports and maybe even compensate me some small portion of the advertising revenue that they earned on that blog post in exchange for the permission I gave them to access that data. Yeah. And then that would happen at like a huge scale. Like everybody would be doing this.
And then not only that, like you're essentially doing the same thing that they're doing, but you're taking that decentralized ownership of like, okay, I'm going to let you do this, but I was given a choice because I own my own data. That's
exactly. Yeah.
Beautiful world, beautiful future we might get into one day. The possibilities are limitless.
I am optimistic. I think there's a lot of I don't know. I think it's been really easy for people to be very pessimistic and down just about different things happening within society. But there is a lot of positive momentum in a bunch of different areas. So I'm not losing hope.
No, no. Like I was talking to a buddy of mine the other day, and I don't know. This is kind of parallels it, but like just thinking about where things could end up versus where they're at in current form, right? Like, so like like one of the co-founders of Ethereum, they were talking to him one time about NFTs, and they had asked him like, "Is this what you envision?" He was like, "Not at all. Like, this is not when we essentially thought of like what NFTs could be, pictures and art were not even on the radar. We were thinking, real estate transactions and deeds and like identification and like being able to decentralize all this information into like its own storages, right? And like funny monkey pictures were never on his brain, but that got us kind of talking into like every time there's a product that's like globally like massive, right? Every time there's a massive product, you always get a cheaper derivative, right? Like you always get like when they like a really cool product comes out, you always have something, and they go to the most simplistic approach because the other stuff is almost too complicated, right? Like art NFTs are super easy to explain, right? Like this artist has pegged this art to this token. You get to own a piece of that. You get to give the royalties directly to the artist or the creator. It's very simple. It's A to B to C. But like that's so simple in terms of where the technology could be. Like do you find that like things always go to like the simplest derivative before, while this other mind-bending stuff is almost too hard to conceive for the general public, right? Like me and you can sit here and talk. Me with little understanding of blockchain, I can sit here and be like, I understand Bored Ape Yacht Club, or I understand like I understand NFTs on that base function because that's the simplest version of it.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I was going to make a similar comment in that, going back to some of those other more complicated use cases, like let's take a driver's license, for example. That would be super cool. But for that to work, the state, the individual state, like, so I live in California. So California, the state would have to adopt this as a standard, and it would have to be integrated into all of the other state services. So if I get pulled over, while driving my motorcycle or something, and I pull out my NFT license, a cop has to be able to, verify that. So they need to have a mechanism to deal with that. And that, same dynamic would happen across multiple other services within a city or state. So it would just be much, much harder to do that, and would require the collaboration of like multiple different entities to pull that off. Whereas with some art, I can just do it myself. It speaks for itself, kind of. And yeah, people can grasp that a lot easier.
Yeah, and it's like we're saying, like it's there's beauty in the simplicity, but it is still simple, right? The only person that has to verify is like, I'm the artist, you're the buyer, you verify that came from me, and it's done. Now something more in depth like a driver's license, the cop, the officer or the police department or the government agency, like they all have to equally understand it and equally verify it, because if a cop pulls you over and you just have like, oh yeah, this is me, like then there's so much back end infrastructure that has to be built for some of these things. So that's what I'm saying. Like it's always going to go to the cheapest, easiest to understand derivative. I say cheapest, but I think you know what I'm saying. Like the simplest derivative is always going to be
the path of least resistance.
Exactly. Like I attributed it to all right. So like when CBD exploded everywhere and everybody was using CBD for everything, it was like 3 months after that, there was CBD in every gas station. Like you can buy a CBD derivative that nobody knows what's in it. It's just called CBD and everybody's like, oh yeah, that's CBD. But in reality, it's not, because it's become so overproduced and simplified that it's not even the original product. Like that, I guess that's more.
There are no standards necessarily to regulate it either. Like, especially within the crypto world, which has a lot of overlap with like libertarianism, sometimes regulations, or it's like a taboo topic. But talking about the marijuana industry in California, for example, I mean, I'm grateful that that is regulated, because consumers that are buying oil or other sorts of products, there's a quality control process and
Yeah.
that protects the consumer. Whereas in some other states, when like CBD kind of exploded, and you also have that similar one that I forget the name of, it's Delta 9,
Delta 8, Delta 9, something like that. And there's a new Delta number, I feel like, every couple months. Like, nobody
Yeah.
knows what it is, but they're like, oh, it's sure, it's fine. You can take it. And you're like,
I'm like, I guess, I don't know. It kind of makes me nervous.
if I could buy it from 7-Eleven, I'm not so sure it's that good for me.
Yeah. And I mean, semi-related though, just a little side note, I love 7-Eleven. They have a special place in my heart. Like, you go there, it's like, oh, I need bananas at 2 a.m. They got it.
7-Eleven's got you. There for a while, they had like those stuffed Dorito pizza roll thingies. Oh man, those have a special place in my heart.
Yeah, arteries totally clogged, but worth it.
No, yeah. The stuffed jalapenos at 2 a.m. from 7-Eleven, like, there's nothing healthy about those.
I'm a big fan of those. Jack in the Box makes some really great jalapeno poppers.
Really? I don't think I've ever had Jack in the Box jalapeno poppers. They're
Yeah.
I love how they had that menu they came out with that was 1,000,000% directed at stoners. And it was like every item on their menu could be wrapped with a grilled cheese.
They still have all that stuff too. Like, I was like, I couldn't sleep, and I'm like, I need some food, and I was like, should I get this, chicken tender, jalapeno popper grilled cheeseburger? Yes.
Yeah, no, yeah. There's a place for that. Like, they should never get rid of it, because like every now and then it's like 4 a.m. You're like, oh yeah, I could take a double meat bacon cheeseburger wrapped in a grilled cheese. Like, that's, why haven't they brought that to me sooner? Like, that's amazing.
I agree. I totally agree. Yeah.
Well, all right. I always like to end the podcast on like something good. Alex was nuclear annihilation, and yours is going to be, stoner mills and grilled cheese.
I love that. I am so for that. I'm so glad that if it had to end on something, that's what we ended on.
Right? Like, of all the things we talked about, grilled cheese, that's the alpha, people. Look into grilled cheese, because you can put it around anything.
It is, and grilled cheese is undefeated. I mean, whenever you eat a snack,
I mean, it really is. The simplicity of grilled cheese, the taste, like the amount of stuff you can add to it or take away, and it's still beautiful grilled cheese. I stand behind grilled cheese all the way.
I kind of want one now.
Yeah, I'm actually craving that now too. Well, Dana, I appreciate you. I appreciate you coming on the podcast and giving us a little piece of your brain here to show to the StormX community.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. And, I guess as a closing note to the StormX community, hold on. We're doing big stuff. It's coming. Stay excited. We're excited.
Yeah. I feel like I need to cut that and just edit it multiple times to the podcast just to keep people excited. Be like, all right. And then like if there's a lull or like a pause, then it's just you be like, hey, Big Stiff's coming, and they're like, yeah. They throw that a little extra like on YouTube.
Yeah, I mean, just think of all that future cash back on kombucha and Starburst.
Man, if you're going out the gate with kombucha and Starburst, the sky is the limit.
Yeah, we've got some pretty aggressive targets that we're hoping to hit by the end of the month too. And I can't say too much more, mostly because I feel like this is the thing that Matt would yell at me for. But
podcast done. You're done. You're fired.
Yeah, it's like, hey, go to your dark corner where you can't talk to anyone.
We're gonna
let you out. Let's look what you did.
Dark room with a computer. From here on out, you're done, Dana.
No, I mean, we're in general though. We're definitely aware that people are very eager for the card, and we're eager to get it out there. And I don't know. I guess to just have like a kind of closing comment on it. Compliance has been a huge challenge, one that I think we underestimated, and we're definitely working through it. I mean, we're not like blocked per se, but just trying to deal with all of the different partners involved in the banking ecosystem. It's it's a lot, but we're doing it.
Couldn't even.
We're doing it at high quality.
Couldn't even imagine. It's a constantly moving target because things are constantly changing. You know what I mean? It's like, there I go explaining the debit card to you again. All right, we're going to end this podcast before I start mansplaining the StormX debit card to the guy with his hands that actually gets to use it. All right, well, like I said, thanks for coming on. We'll go ahead and end it there. Appreciate it.
Cool. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. You're welcome back anytime. This has been the Wen People Talk podcast. We'll catch you on the next one.